On May 31, 2025, U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin issued a stark warning from Singapore. He described an imminent threat from China. The Shangri-La Dialogue was the chosen venue. The Indo-Pacific region is becoming an arena of intense military competition. Secretary Austin's warning was a call to all nations. The era of assuming peace and stability is rapidly drawing to a close. Nations in Asia must bolster their defenses. The potential for conflict looms larger. The stability of the entire Indo-Pacific hangs in the balance. Proactive measures and stronger partnerships are essential. The warning was a call to action. The message was intended to cut through the noise. It aimed to focus minds on a changing security landscape. The Pentagon chief's pronouncements signaled a new urgency. When a United States Secretary of Defense speaks with such gravity, nations listen. China's military growth is a defining feature of our times. The People's Liberation Army, PLA, is rapidly modernizing across all domains: land, sea, air, space, and cyberspace. Beijing's ambition is clear: to project power far beyond its borders. This rapid ascent is funded by a booming economy and driven by a strong political will. The world watches closely, wondering where this path will lead. China's defense budget now stands at over $230 billion annually. This figure is greater than the combined defense spending of Japan, India, and South Korea. The sheer volume of resources being poured into the PLA is a clear indicator of its strategic priorities. When compared to the United States, China's defense budget is still smaller. However, the gap is undeniably narrowing. China benefits from lower labor costs and a focused procurement strategy. Many analysts believe that, considering purchasing power parity, China's effective military spending is much closer to that of the United States. This financial muscle translates directly into enhanced military capabilities. Nowhere is China's military growth more evident than in its naval expansion. The People's Liberation Army Navy, PLAN, has become the largest navy in the world in terms of the number of ships. China is constructing its third aircraft carrier and deploying new destroyers, frigates, and submarines at a rapid rate. Beyond its conventional forces, China is also making significant strides in other advanced military technologies. It is expanding and modernizing its nuclear arsenal and developing hypersonic missiles. The development of such game-changing technologies threatens to destabilize the strategic balance. Secretary Austin issued a direct call to America's allies in the Indo-Pacific to increase their defense spending. He emphasized the need for them to modernize their military forces and enhance coordination with Washington. Japan has committed to doubling its defense budget by 2027. This significant increase will fund the acquisition of new capabilities, including long-range strike missiles. South Korea is investing heavily in its missile defense capabilities. The Philippines has agreed to allow American troops to be stationed back on its bases. These are important moves, signaling a growing regional consensus. Despite these positive developments, there is still more work to be done. On average, Asian nations spent approximately 1.5% of their GDP on defense in 2024. Secretary Austin's call underscores the need for sustained and increased investment across the Indo-Pacific. The United States remains committed to the region, but collective security requires collective effort. Allies must shoulder a greater share of the burden to maintain a credible deterrent against potential aggression. The message was clear. The United States remains committed to the region, but collective security requires collective effort. The Pentagon's stark warning raises a fundamental question. Is the threat from China truly imminent, demanding immediate and drastic action? Or is it part of a broader, long-term geopolitical strategy by the United States to contain a rising global power? China's military modernization and assertive behavior are undeniable facts. However, the framing of this challenge and the proposed responses are also shaped by Washington's strategic objective of maintaining its global leadership. Beijing, predictably, offers a sharply contrasting narrative. Chinese officials reject accusations of aggressive intent, portraying their military buildup as purely defensive. They accuse the United States of military encirclement and harboring a Cold War mentality. The United States' strategy in the Indo-Pacific is aimed at maintaining a favorable balance of power. This involves strengthening its own military capabilities and presence in the region. The goal is deterrence. to convince Beijing that the costs of aggression would far outweigh any potential benefits. The escalating rhetoric and arms race draw comparisons to the Cold War. Avoiding such an outcome is a paramount concern for policymakers worldwide. Taiwan stands as perhaps the most perilous flashpoint in the Indo-Pacific region. Beijing considers the self-governing democratic island a renegade province. It has vowed to achieve reunification, using force if necessary. Recent intelligence assessments suggest that China is working towards having the military capability to mount a full-scale invasion of Taiwan by 2027. China's military pressure on Taiwan has intensified dramatically in recent years. The People's Liberation Army now routinely conducts large-scale military exercises around the island. These drills often simulate blockades, amphibious assaults, and air superiority campaigns. Each major exercise raises the risk of an accident or miscalculation that could spiral into a wider conflict. The international community watches the situation around Taiwan with bated breath. A conflict over Taiwan would have catastrophic consequences, devastating the global economy and likely drawing in major powers. Preventing such a scenario requires a delicate balance of deterrence, diplomacy, and a clear commitment to maintaining the status quo. Beyond Taiwan, the South China Sea remains a deeply contested and volatile region. This critical waterway is subject to overlapping territorial claims by China, Vietnam, the Philippines, Malaysia, Brunei, and Taiwan. China's sweeping 9-line claim encompasses almost the entirety of the South China Sea. This claim has been invalidated by an international tribunal, a ruling that Beijing refuses to recognize. China has aggressively pursued its claims by constructing and militarizing artificial islands. These man-made outposts now host sophisticated military infrastructure. The Philippines has found itself on the front line of China's assertiveness in the South China Sea. Chinese Coast Guard and maritime militia vessels frequently harass Philippine fishing boats and resupply missions. These encounters often involve dangerous maneuvers and coercive tactics. The tensions in the South China Sea are not merely about rocks and reefs. They are about fundamental principles of international law and freedom of navigation. The United States and its allies conduct freedom of navigation operations to challenge China's excessive maritime claims. Managing these disputes peacefully while upholding international norms remains one of the most complex diplomatic and security challenges in the Indo-Pacific. At the heart of Secretary Austin's message was a familiar philosophy: peace comes through strength. This maxim underscores the U.S. belief that a strong military deterrent is essential to prevent aggression. In the Indo-Pacific, this means ensuring that the United States and its allies possess credible military capabilities. The United States is actively implementing a strategy that prioritizes the Indo-Pacific region. This involves shifting military resources, diplomatic attention, and economic engagement towards Asia. The U.S. is doubling down on its commitments in Asia, modernizing its forces and strengthening its network of alliances. However, the directness of Secretary Austin's call for increased Asian defense spending received mixed reactions. Some delegates perceived the tone as somewhat patronizing. Washington must rally its allies without appearing to dictate terms. Building genuine partnerships requires mutual respect and a shared understanding of threats and responsibilities. While military strength forms a key pillar of U.S. strategy, diplomacy and open channels of communication remain vital. Senior U.S. officials continue to engage with their Chinese counterparts to manage competition responsibly. This dual approach, investing in deterrence while pursuing dialogue, is essential for navigating the complex relationship between Washington and Beijing. The situation in the Indo-Pacific is undeniably at a critical juncture. The decisions made today by leaders in Washington, Beijing, and across Asia will profoundly shape the future of the region. The era of relative calm that followed the Cold War has given way to a period of intensified great power competition. This new reality demands clear-eyed assessment, strategic foresight, and a renewed commitment to collective security. The implications of escalating tensions, or worse, open conflict in the Indo-Pacific, extend far beyond the region itself. A war over Taiwan or a major confrontation in the South China Sea would have devastating global consequences. Preventing such a catastrophe is a global imperative that requires concerted international effort. The outlook for U.S.-China relations is one of sustained and multifaceted competition. Managing this complex relationship will be the defining geopolitical challenge of the 21st century. It will require skillful statecraft, robust deterrence, and a willingness to find areas of cooperation on shared global challenges. The path ahead is fraught with peril, but it is not predetermined. Through strengthened alliances, increased preparedness, and a persistent pursuit of diplomatic solutions, a more stable and prosperous future can still be secured. The challenge is immense, but the stakes demand nothing less than our most determined efforts.